Hello, welcome to Abstract AF. I'm Sneha Jaswal, and this is the 13th edition of 10 book reviews under 10 minutes. Without wasting any time, let's get to book number one, The Agony House by author Cherie Priest. This is a fun fictional novel. It's a teen ghost story. You have a protagonist who's called Denis Faber, and her family moves to a huge crumbling house, which her mother plans into converting into a bed and breakfast, except that the family doesn't anticipate the kind of problems that come with this house, including some ghosts. So apparently there are two ghosts. There's one who seems to be evil, malevolent, and is trying to get these guys killed, while there's another feminine ghost who smells like lilies and seems to be nice and tries to protect Denise's family. Interestingly, Denis discovers a very old unpublished comic book in her house, and it leads to clues of who the dead person haunting the house could be. While this is a regular novel, it has a few pages of the comic book, so the artwork is really good. And if you're somebody who likes horror fiction, especially with teen protagonists, you should definitely check it out. Book number two is Zikora by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This is actually more of a short story that's about a woman who's struggling to give birth at a hospital. So while she's in this excruciating pain, she recalls why her almost perfect boyfriend decides to not be by her side. And she also goes on to explore her fraught relationship with her Nigerian mom. Adichie weaves smooth sentences full of nostalgia, memories, love, loathing, and regret. You get a slice of Nigerian culture and how Zikora, the protagonist's life, changed when she came to America. My biggest problem with this story is that it's actually too short. It doesn't end well, felt a little jarring, and could have been a full-fledged novel. Pick up the book if you're an Adichie fan. Book number three is a graphic novel called Pilu of the Woods. It's both written and illustrated by Nguyen. It's a gorgeously drawn book. It's beautiful and so pleasant to the eye, it can have a calming effect on you. It's about this little girl who has lost her mother and is going through some emotional trauma and meets a forest fairy in the forest. Love, loss, and family are the strongest themes of this book. However, I feel like it's a little too superficial for adult readers and probably a little too serious for younger readers. So it's kind of a tricky book that might leave most readers unsatisfied, except for the art that's, like I said, gorgeous. Moving on to book number four, it's called The Mountains Sing by Nguyen Phan Mai. It's spread over decades and deals with one family trying to survive through really rough times in Vietnam, including the brutal Vietnam War. The protagonist is a young schoolgirl called Huang, but it's really the tale of her grandmother that'll capture the imagination of the readers and win over their admiration. It's definitely a gripping tale that looks at the kind of human cost of war. If you've never read any fictional work that deals with the Vietnam War, you should definitely pick this one. Book number five, Rockstar and Softboy by Sina Grace. This is a graphic novel, a one-shot novel. It's not a series, and it has so many things. You will be entertained in every damn page. Feisty witches, transfiguring cats, talking zombies, party ravaging animals, space traveling gay BFFs. It's just a fun book about two gay best friends throwing the most epic party that goes wrong in the most unexpected way. I loved it. I completely enjoyed reading the book and would suggest the same to you. Moving on to book number six, it's called The Dangers of Smoking in Bed by Mariana Enriquez. I've already done a long review on a separate episode, so I'll keep this short. It's a horror themed short stories collection and has a very interesting and varied choice of tales. It has all the kind of ingredients that you need for a great supernatural horror book. You have gore, murder, blood, extremely weird characters, and bizarre situations. It was shortlisted for the 2021 International Booker Prize, which is kind of crazy for a horror book. But I think I had really high expectations from this book, so I was a little disappointed by the end of it. But if you love horror fiction like me, it's definitely worth reading. I would like to believe that since I read the translated English version, maybe some of the original essence of the book was lost. Okay, moving on to book number seven, Princess Ever After by K. O'Neill. I think I've ended up reading a bunch of books by this author, and that's because I like their art style. It's colorful, cute, and bright. But unfortunately, Princess Ever After, the story is just too random and not fun to read. Like the title and the cover photo suggest, it's obviously a princess meets princess story. So there's obviously this nice attempt at LGBTQ representation in lead protagonist roles, but without a strong story, things just don't work out in a book, do they? Probably best if you skip this one. Book number 8, Andre the Giant by Brandon Easton and Denis Medri. Now, this is a graphic novel that really took me by surprise. I don't know why I picked this book, but since I didn't really have any expectations, it turned out to be a very intriguing read. It was fun and gave some really insightful uh, details to Andre the Giant's life, who was a giant in the wrestling world. Through the colorful panels, we dive straight into the life of a boy who grew up too soon and was pushed into this really fast life of fame, alcohol, and professional wrestling. Andre was only 20 when he was discovered, and we go through his journey of worldwide fame. The graphic novel poignantly humanizes this larger than life figure in history, and if you're a wrestling fan, you will definitely enjoy reading this book. Okay, let's shift focus to book number 9, Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This is a Japanese novel. I obviously read the English translation, so again, I don't know if things were lost in translation, but I did enjoy reading this book. It's about time travel, and the story unfolds in this intriguing little cafe that you would almost miss catching if you were walking down the streets of Tokyo. Now, this cafe is where time traveling can take place, but there are so many rules to it that most people don't even try it. So it's sort of a myth, but each section of this book deals with people who do go back in time to meet that one person that they really want to make amends with. For a time traveling book, it's a very emotional story and it can be very traditional in its approach to human lives. So, those expecting something modern, complicated, or exciting will be left disappointed. But if you're up for something that's more on the lines of TV drama, Before the Coffee Gets Cold can be a nice read for the weekend. And now to the last book, Tropic of the Sea by manga legend Satoshi Kon. The premise treads on fantasy, focusing on a family that lives in a small seaside town in Japan. Now, this family apparently has a bizarre, strange pact with mermaids. So, apparently, every 60 years, a mermaid comes to the seashore and gives the protagonist's family an egg for safekeeping. And in return, they keep their seaside town safe and give it a bounty of fish for the fishermen to thrive. But the family eventually gets greedy and tries to make it a tourist attraction, kind of disrupting their pact with the mermaids. What's gonna happen next forms the rest of the story. I loved the artwork in this book. It's like you were just dragged into this beautiful seaside town, and it's like things are unfolding right in front of your eyes. But what disappointed me was that I felt like the story was moving too fast, things were happening a little too swiftly, and it kind of gets confusing, and nothing stays with you by the end of it. So, 100 points to Satoshi Kon for the idea and for the artwork, but the story could have been better. Nonetheless, if you're a manga fan, you should definitely check it out. And yeah, that's a wrap on 10 book reviews under 10 minutes. Talk to you in the next one.